A one, a two, a one, two, three, four. Why waste time doing things that are lame when you can be playing this game? So you guys know Brawl in the Family, right? Wait a minute, it ended 7 years ago, so there's actually a pretty good chance that you don't. Okay, so you guys know those YouTube videos of Waluigi doing song covers? Those are done by Matthew Taranto, and in 2008 he made a webcomic called Brawl in the Family. It's one of those good old video game webcomics with a really sharp sense of humor and an affinity for that there Kirby. The highlights for me, however, weren't the comics at all. In addition to being a really good artist, Taranto is also an extremely talented musician, a skill he flexed in a number of arrangements, parodies, and original songs throughout the comic's run. Why am I mentioning all this? Because him, his brother, and the entire team at Bitfinity made a music-centric game after the comic's conclusion called Tadpole Treble, and it just got a re-release as Tadpole Treble Encore on the Nintendo Switch. If anything I said leading up to that factoid is relevant to you or your interests, that's gonna be a more effective shill than anything else I can say, so go and pick up Tadpole Treble on your system of choice right now. If you're unfamiliar with Taranto's works, well then first you should go check out his YouTube channel. I recommend If It Takes a Lifetime and The History of Nintendo, they're both super good, and then you should hang around and listen to me gush about Tadpole Treble and see if you should buy it. Spoiler alert, you do. You just don't know it yet. So the game stars this musically inclined little tadpole named Baton, who, after not even being alive for more than 2 minutes and 45 seconds, is scooped up by a devious pelican looking for a snack. Baton manages to escape and now has to swim her way through Opus Island to make it back home. Yes, the story is extremely simple, but it's the way that it's told that makes it click. The game's really light on traditional dialogue, opting instead for visual storytelling with no dialogue, and whenever there is, it's usually through song, giving the entire game a sort of sing-through musical vibe. It does manage to also convey a journey of growth through Baton, and I find that to be pretty impressive in spite of the game's admittedly small scale. And just because the story as a whole is simple doesn't mean they skimped out on the details. The writing for a dude in his area is incredibly sharp, and while I usually don't care much for bestiaries in games, I read through every entry here. They're just so funny, which does make them a very enticing reward, but I'm getting ahead of myself. And the visual presentation as well is just, really good. The hand-drawn aesthetic works perfectly for this game, and it just oozes charm all over the place. Just look at Baton. This little tadpole is just so expressive. Just look at her face when Sonata shows up, and isn't she just the cutest darn thing? And there's just so many other details, from musical ones like the pause menu song, an entire minute-and-a-half song locked behind a 5% chance upon pausing the game, to a whole slew of visual details. I never noticed things like the gunshots on the screen until recording this, and the game is just packed with little details like that. And of course, I just have to talk about the music. Tadpole Treble's OST is so good. Every stage, and I do mean every stage, is just an absolute pleasure to listen to, while also managing to be distinct from one another. The highlights for me have to be the songs with lyrics. Don't get me wrong, all the other tracks are fantastic in their own right, but Midnight Bayou, Thunder Creek, Another Refrain, they're just so good, and it brings me great pleasure to say that the new stage, Isle Isle, is not only another song with lyrics, but it's just as good as all the others. Also, real quick, can we talk about how the lyric, "I'd sing through a sore throat if it kept you afloat," is unironically really smooth? Like, man, that's a good line for someone literally born yesterday. Right, but this is a video game, so what actually is Tadpole Treble? Well, each stage is made to replicate a piece of sheet music, with obstacles placed in accordance to the music, and your job is to guide Baton to the end of each stage. Along the way, you'll grab health items to keep yourself healthy, you'll slap sticks for bonus points, and symbols to launch yourself in the air and increase your score multiplier, and avoid each stage's unique gimmicks. Tadpole Treble isn't a traditional rhythm game, as Baton can swim anywhere on the scale at any time, so there's technically nothing stopping you from freestyling your way through every stage. But following the collectibles will not only lead to a better score, but it'll also lead you to the optimal path that guides you through the obstacles, so it's recommended that you do that anyways. It also doesn't have a traditional combo system. For every obstacle you dodge, your streak will increase by 1, with it maxing out at 30, and simply not getting hit is all it takes to maintain it. You also don't really need a great sense of rhythm to make it through. The game has plenty of visual cues to follow, and again, all you need to do is avoid obstacles, which is why I define Tadpole Treble as a music-centric game rather than a traditional rhythm game. But if anything, that just makes Tadpole Treble a game that anyone can get into. Now, Tadpole Treble is not a long game at all. Even with an entire new stage in the Switch version, it only takes about an hour to beat. But where Tadpole Treble really shines is the amount of unlockables and its sheer replayability. Each stage has 5 medals to obtain, and each medal unlocks a new reward. There's one medal for simply beating the level, which rewards you with the next level. There's a medal for obtaining an S rank in every stage, which can be a real challenge in some of these. You gotta max out the streak, get every score multiplier you can grab, and avoid taking damage pretty much at all. You also gotta use Trouble mode efficiently. By maintaining a 30 streak, the Trouble meter will fill, and once it's full, you can activate Trouble mode, making you invincible to most objects and granting you a 31 point bonus for every obstacle destroyed, meaning you gotta figure out the best times to let it loose to get the most points possible. Getting an S rank rewards you with the stage's song in the music player, and since every track is, again, really good, it's worth going after. On the opposite side of the scale, there's the F ranks, which task you with obtaining the lowest ranking in every stage. You'd think that this would be really easy, but it's not. It's not enough to just avoid the point sparkles and the symbols. No, you have to be optimally terrible. You gotta slap into obstacles pretty much whenever you hit a 30 streak, and scour for every bit of food so that you can actually survive long enough to reach the end of the stage. It's a real struggle, but the reward for doing it is the stage's commentary track with Matthew Taranto and his brother Michael. So these are also worth pursuing, because not only does it provide more insight into the game's design, we were robbed of Baton with a cowboy hat by the way, but they're also really funny.
Hire me for all your voiceover work. I'm looking for work.
We're looking for work after we released this game and no one bought it.
We're out of work. We don't have any money left. I'm living in a cardboard box.
Then there's Etude and his unlockables. Every stage has 100 of these bubbles, and you get a medal for getting all 100 in the stage. By reaching certain bubble thresholds, Etude will reward you with different prizes, such as the Bestiary, as mentioned earlier, access to modes like the music player, and more. The game only counts the highest number of bubbles you got in a single run, and not every bubble individually, so yes, you do have to get all 100 in a single run, and yes, it's a challenge collecting them all. If you were looking for a more traditional rhythm game experience, I think you'll get your jollies here, because getting to the end of the stage with only 99 bubbles is just as heartbreaking as missing a single note in any other rhythm game. Finally, each stage has a challenge fly, which you can obtain by fulfilling certain requirements unique to each stage. You have to get a certain number of bubbles in order to start receiving hints, but you'll probably get some of these without even trying. Some stages require a little more legwork, like Saltwater Cape requiring you to stay in the damaging water at all times, or Piranha Jungle, which tasks you with making it through one of the most dangerous stages without taking a single hit. So yeah, they live up to their name. There are 14 in all, with one being locked behind the game's Concerto mode, a marathon mode which tasks you with completing every level of the game back-to-back in a single life. It's less intimidating than it sounds. But honestly, because of the game's short length, this is actually my preferred way to replay Tadpole Treble, and it's pretty fun trying to go for a really big combined score through all the levels. Anyways, getting all the challenge flies unlocks a super secret extra level, so they too are worth pursuing. And for the creative types out there, Tadpole Treble features an entire composition mode, similar to Mario Paint, where you can create your own levels. You can place notes with any of the provided instruments on the scale, you can add symbols, you can change the octaves as needed. There's a lot you can do with this one. With that said, I haven't really messed around with it much myself. I'm more the type who likes seeing what other people can create. Unfortunately, the Switch version currently doesn't have any way to share levels, which is a big bummer. Apparently they're looking into ways of bringing it over, but for now at least, that's 1 point for the Steam version. But even without that, Tadpole Treble Encore is an absolute joy. I actually didn't intend on getting 100% before making this video, but come on, how can I say no to that phase? Replaying the game was an absolute pleasure, and I really hope that this new release gives Tadpole Treble the second win that it deserves. For $9, it's an absolute steal. And hey, don't have a Switch or you don't have that much cash? It's on Steam for a hot $5. That's right, for the price of your lunch, you can buy one of the most charming music games currently on the market. So whether it's on Switch, Steam, or heck, even the Wii U if you swing like that, just buy Tadpole Treble. Do it. Like I gushed about it for 1,800 words, I'm out of things to say. I'm not leaving until you buy Tadpole Treble. Buy it. It's like not even that big, it's like 500 megabytes on PC and 170 on Switch, so it's not even like you need to delete stuff to play it. Just do it! There's songs full of singing and lyrics to match, and creatures that happen to think you're a catch. Play stages, compete, or create them from scratch. If you want something quirky and new, it's true. Then Tadpole Treble Encore's for you. Ba-doobity-doo.